Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm Maddie and today I'm sharing my VBAC birth story. Just for some context, VBAC means vaginal birth after cesarean. So when I first got pregnant, I wasn't sure if I wanted to do another cesarean or a VBAC. When I first had my son, it was quite a traumatic birth for me personally. I will link the video down below. Obviously it wasn't like the most traumatic birth experience, but it was like traumatic for me. And I really didn't expect it to end in a C-section. Basically like the cliff notes are his heart rate was dropping during contractions and I never dilated far enough. The labor went for a long time too. It was like about 24 hours or 22 hours at the end. I had to do an emergency C-section, which was traumatic in of itself. And when that happened, I really wanted to have a VBAC with my next birth. I really wanted to experience what a natural birth felt like. And I don't know, it's just like this instinct that I had, and I feel like a lot of women do. I know a lot of women don't, and some people opt for C-sections regardless. But for me personally, like I really wanted to do it naturally and just know what that experience was like. And I really felt like I missed out when he was born. I wasn't allowed to touch him or hold him. And it was quite disconnecting and not that sort of emotional experience I wanted to experience with my baby when they were birthed. I did get to hold him at the end of the first hour of his life, which was good, but I would have liked to have held him immediately or sooner than that. It was a lot. And I remember talking to the midwives in the hospital and saying what was wrong with me, like why didn't I achieve a natural birth? I keep saying in air quotes because any birth is still like an achievement in itself, even if it was a cesarean. And I do know that. And like, don't feel bad if you've had a cesarean and you didn't want to have one either, or if you even tried for like a VBAC and you didn't succeed or anything like that. Like you still had your baby, you're amazing and congratulations to you. Like the whole point is to bring life into the world, and I know sometimes our journeys are like different. If you are feeling bad, I hope you take some time to heal and feel better soon about it all. Hopefully you can get some help and guidance. I definitely had some help after my birth with my son because it was hard mentally. Come into the video. So this is our daughter. 2 weeks old in a few days.
So I'm about to head out for a walk.
Yes, while I film this video. And our son is with his nana right now. Do you like how I set up the microphone?
Oh, very nice. It works.
What did you think about the birth? Give us a quick little summary.
It was long. It was very long. It was kind of...
It was long.
I think it sort of started off the same way.
Yeah.
Where Maddie wasn't in too much pain, at least to begin with, and then it ramps up.
Yeah, it does.
You know, and even like driving down was very hard. That was the same with...
That was the same with our son.
Yeah.
We need little code names for them.
I know.
Well, how did you feel at the end of the birth?
Excited. I was very proud too.
Yeah.
Very, very proud husband. And very proud new dad. Well, second dad, sort of.
Well, new dad for this one.
Maddie was such a trooper throughout the whole process, and she managed it really well, and very proud of you.
Aw, thank you.
Yeah. Alright, okay. We'll take our leave and let you finish what you do. Okay, we're going to say bye.
Bye. Thanks for joining. Hope you guys don't mind the cute baby interruption. I asked Ryan to come and join this video for at least a little bit because last time he told my birth story with me. This time around, like it's just too hard with like 2 kids and just time and everything, and I just figured I'll tell it myself. So yeah, back to what I was saying. I was talking about how when I was talking to the midwives, I was trying to work out why this happened and can I achieve like a vaginal birth next time around. All the midwives were really sweet and they were saying like there's no reason why you wouldn't be able to, and your body still did all the work, and like you got to 4 centimeters and all this stuff. That made me feel like kind of hopeful. But then when I did get pregnant again, I was starting to relive the fear of the birth. And I was like, do I even want to go there, or do I just want to have a C-section and not deal with it? And then when I started looking into VBAC and everything, I realized, no, this is what I want to do. It is all that I wanted in my first birth, and I cried about it so much after the birth of my first son that I just knew that I needed to like honor that wish in myself, trying to achieve it again, even if I may not succeed. To try and achieve it felt more to me than the fear of the failure in a way. And a lot of the time I think the fear of the failure does keep me from doing things, but this time around I really wanted to just try anyway. So I started researching how to achieve it, and I joined a Facebook group which At the start was very confronting, because once you start to learn about like the cascade of intervention and the hospital system and all this stuff, your eyes are opened and you also like grieve even more for like your experience. For me personally though, it was like a medical thing, like his heart rate was dropping. So I think regardless of what happened or didn't happen, like I had a good care team around me. It was always going to happen like that. I think I've come to peace with it. I've tried to rethink so many different times, like what if I did this, what if I did that, but no, like I think it was always going to happen, and it's just how it is. This time around, I wanted to give myself the best chance. Started researching everything. Some podcasts that are good to listen to are the Midwife's Cauldron. I really liked that one. There were some others too, but I really liked the Midwife's Cauldron. That was probably my favorite. I also wanted to keep fit this pregnancy, which I also did last pregnancy, but the only thing I did last pregnancy is that I did a lot of yoga and I did a lot of walking, but I didn't do any like muscles. And after the birth, I had a lot of back pain and things like that. So I wanted to avoid that this time. And I did like a prenatal dumbbell workout once a week. And then I did my yoga. And then later on in the pregnancy, I found Spinning Babies, which is a website resource, which is also really good. And I did the daily essentials, which are like a series of stretches or like a yoga sequence that you can do daily that helps prepare your body for labor. I also went to a pelvic floor specialist and had my pelvic floor checked out during pregnancy, and she actually told me that my pelvic floor was pretty good, and she gave me some exercises to help improve it a little bit, but I was really bad at the homework and I actually didn't do any of that. But then I did go back to learn how to do the perineal massage, and doing that I think helped me at the end of my birth too. So I highly recommend doing the perineal massage as well. And then on a Friday afternoon, I started getting some cramping. During this pregnancy, especially towards the end, I'd had like a lot of on and off cramping, but this cramping felt different. I was actually on the phone to my mum and I'm like, oh, I'm getting cramping. And she was like, oh, fingers crossed. So I don't want to jinx anything, but I think I might be going into labor. This is the belly. Let's have a look. Oh, don't scare me. I'm looking far. I'll check in later. The little clip I tried to take before was a little hectic, but Ryan took our son to the park and he's like 2.5 now. And so I was just like laying on the couch trying to rest. Then I started getting some cramping, which sometimes happens. It's been happening more and more lately. The last 2 days I've had a lot of Braxton Hicks and tightenings and stuff. I've been getting them on and off anyway, but especially the last 2 days it's been way more intense. So anyway, I got up and started moving around a bit, and then I decided to start making dinner and I called my mum. The cramping didn't really go away, like it just got more intense the more I was standing up making dinner, and I was like, oh, this is a good sign, because normally like change of movement stops it. The crampy period feeling has sort of died down now, but I keep getting like quite a few tightenings. So I'm thinking maybe it's happening. I'm excited. It's currently a Friday. I'm 39 weeks and 2 days. And I was 37 weeks and 5 days when I gave birth to our son. So it's actually been a really long wait and like a big mental shift, because I thought you gave birth to your second child sooner or around the same time. So this is like quite a bit over that. I've never made it to 39 weeks before. I know most women go to 40 and beyond. Let me tell you what, it's very uncomfortable. All credit to all the moms that go further than this. I don't even know if I'm like actually in labor yet or not, but I am hopeful. Even last night I felt like cramping on and off during the night, but it wasn't like that intense. I think like beforehand I was kind of like stressed. It's funny how like your mindset changes, because I was like, oh no, she's gonna come, I haven't got everything ready. And then past the time I thought she would have come, I'm like, okay, well, where is she now? So I'm actually like really excited to get like the feeling of cramping and stuff, where I don't think I would have been before. I would have been a bit stressed, but now like when you don't have something, you don't know what you're missing out on, and then you do, then you realize what you're missing out on. In my case. And yeah, so I'm ready for it to start happening, and I'll keep you guys posted. That was good. This could be our last night as a family of 3. Oh my god. Whoa! Look at you. My mind's a little bit hazy and I don't quite remember, but I think I tried to go to bed and then I got woken up from the contractions at like 12. And then I think Ryan came to bed at that time and I was like, Ryan, I think I am definitely in labor and we should probably tell your mum and dad and my mum and dad, because all of the grandparents had to be like hands on deck. My mum needed to come with us to the hospital as my secondary support person, and Ryan's mum and dad needed to come and look after our son.
So welcome back to the vlog. We are on the way to the hospital. It's 2:38 at night. We're watching Twilight, I think the third one. The little contractions started ramping up and then I tried to go to sleep, and then I only got like an hour of not going to sleep because the contractions were like too painful to sleep. And then when I finally got to sleep, the really painful one woke me up and it sort of like shocked me, and I was like, ugh, I don't think I can keep sleeping, because like I want to be in a good headspace when they happen. I don't want to be like taken by surprise and then tense up my body as well. Now I feel committed to being awake. We can't wait to meet our little baby. Woo. How are you feeling?
Feeling fine. I'm sure I had a like subconscious stress. And like my body is really weird in the mood. I don't have a lot of like visible stress or like even conscious stress. But my body knows when it's a stressful situation.
Well, hopefully we don't have the stressful situations this time. Last time we would get rushing into the room, so that was stressful.
It feels better this time. It feels more relaxed.
Yeah, like we know what to expect. Ugh, gonna get some contraction. Contraction over. Thank you for saying those things. It's really helpful. I don't know if Ryan was helping me think about the things during the contraction. Not lying down this time. I'll try to lay down. This time I'm gonna be up and moving and getting this baby out of me. Anyway, probably check in later or maybe not. Ryan will be cameraman from now on.
And then because I'm a VBAC, they immediately hooked me up to the continuous monitoring machine. Now at the hospital that I went to, they were supposed to have had wireless monitoring and a tub that I could labor in. But apparently when I got there, it was quite disappointing because there was 3 things wrong. My obstetrician wasn't on call that day, so it was her day off. All the hot water in the hospital was broken and they were fixing it in the morning. And the wireless continuous monitoring was not working.
So we're in hospital now, just getting checked over, getting monitored on the little monitor, just there. Rumpy's got the little belly straps on. Wireless one's not working, bathtub's not working. Not working. It's a lot of not working today.
Well, they might fix the hot water in the morning.
True, we'll see how we go. How you feeling? Awake, surprisingly.
Yeah, I mean, I should probably rest or something. I was laboring and I think I was doing a good job. I'd seen on TikTok actually that it's really good to do a circuit. So you do like 3 contractions in one position and then you change positions and you do 3 contractions in another position. And the lady that taught it online, if I can find the video, I'll link that below too because it was really helpful. But the lady who said that online was a midwife and she said she tries to do a more active position and then swaps to a more restful position. And last time I was giving birth, I didn't know any of this. So I sort of treated labor as period cramps, and I get really bad period cramps. I was trying to like lay down through them and I actually got stuck on the bed a lot of the time and stuck on my back on the bed because the doctors and everyone last time kept putting me on my back, and I honestly think that that did not help me at all in the slightest. I kind of wish they got me in different positions. Maybe that would have made his heart rate go up. Who knows? Probably not. I don't want to go there. It probably would never have fixed anything. Yeah, this is what I mean by like you're always racking your brains. What went wrong? What could I have fixed? You just gotta live and you learn and keep moving forward. And then my contractions, once I got there and over the course of a couple of hours, started to like fizzle out. So I was having, while I was at home, like 3 in 10 minutes, or at least 2 in 10 minutes, 1 every 4 minutes or something. And then once I got to the hospital, they sort of started spacing apart. Sometimes it would be like one every 15 minutes, every 20 minutes. It really sort of just spaced out and then went back closer together and spaced out. It was not consistent at all. And then the morning time came, and I think it was like 8 a.m. or something. And the obstetrician on call came in, and which was not my obstetrician. And she was trying to give me the hard lines, guys. It was really scary, really like confronting and upsetting for me, because when I was learning about the cascade of intervention and like working out what I do and don't want when I go into labor, and I talked about all these things a lot with my own obstetrician, you know, we had an understanding of certain things and I was okay with that. But this one didn't know like my history or any of like my wishes, and we hadn't had any of this understanding. And so she was like, you know, you're a VBAC, so you need to have continuous monitoring and you need to have vaginal exams every 4 hours, like non-negotiable. And for me, that was quite a trigger for a variety of reasons. One of them being with my previous birth, the vaginal exams, and when they were putting the skull cap on my son twice because one time it fell off. For me, they were like more excruciating than the contractions or anything. They were the most excruciating pain I've ever felt in my entire life. I had talked about that at length with my obstetrician, and she was like, okay, well, the only time that we would need to do a vaginal exam based on all of these things that you've told me is we would need to do it if you wanted an epidural. So we just need to know how far along you were before we gave you that. And that would be it. So when this obstetrician was telling me that I absolutely had to have vaginal exams every 4 hours, I like went into panic mode. I was like, well, my obstetrician said that I didn't have to. And then when I said that to her, she like rolled her eyes. She was like, oh, that's great. And sort of huffed and puffed. And I'm like, what is going on with this lady? And she was saying all this stuff to me, like drawing all the really hard lines with me. Because I'm a VBAC and I have a scar on my uterus from a previous cesarean, they treat you so differently. I have to have continuous monitoring, and now she's saying I have to have these vaginal exams, which my other obstetrician didn't say I had to have. And I remember asking my other obstetrician, are they mandatory? And she said they're not. So I don't know why this one was basically lying to me. Anyway, because she was just so abrupt and rude about it, I ended up having a full-blown panic attack. I'm actually quite a non-confrontational person, and I find confrontation quite scary. So I actually cried a lot during this pregnancy thinking, oh, I'm gonna have to fight the doctors on certain things. So when this woman was like basically fighting me on my rights, I did break down into tears, and I said something like, I don't want to be confrontational, or I'm not trying to be like this and that, but like I will not consent to this. And I started like crying and having a full-blown panic attack, which I think really freaked her out and freaked me out too. I didn't know I was gonna have a panic attack, but like I was like, you know, the rapid breathing and I couldn't catch my breath. And then my mum and Ryan, I think they were trying to like keep her on side a little bit because they're like, oh no, look, she's really nice. She just needed to explain the policies, and then, you know, you guys were on the same page, but she didn't know your personal history of anything. And then mum and Ryan were saying, or especially my mum was saying like, isn't that right, to the obstetrician? And then like the obstetrician and the midwife were like, yeah, like we didn't know, and like all this stuff. So like I'm grateful to my mum for doing that for me, because that I think helped mend the bridges between me and her. I didn't really speak to her much after that, but I know that they wrote panic attacks in my hospital notes afterwards. And then she told me to go home, which at the start made me feel really bad, because I'm like, I've come all this way to hospital, I labored there for so long, and then you're telling me to go home because my contractions aren't close enough apart, and now you've made me cry and all this stuff. But going home ended up being the best thing for me, and I actually felt so mortified and embarrassed after I cried, but I think it ended up being a good thing that all that happened too. You guys will see at the end. I ended up going home, and I was really scared about going home too, because the car ride to the hospital with my son was excruciating. Like when you're having contractions and you're in the motion of the car, like any little bump in the road, any little swerve of the car hurts so much during those contractions. But it wasn't too bad, luckily. I think that's because she was high up in my stomach and not on my cervix. Also, my water didn't break with her. I didn't lose my mucus plug either, but I immediately lost my water and mucus plug with my son the second I went into labor. So it was a really different birth this time around, really different. We started going home, and on the way home, I told Ryan, I just want to go to the beach. I want to put my feet in the water. I want to feel more zen, because I just felt out of it. Like I hadn't slept, basically labored all night on no sleep, then had a big panic attack. So I just wanted to like go to the beach, put my feet in the water, feel like the waves like lap up on my feet, and just like shut my eyes and like feel the sun, and just try and like get into like a more positive meditative state again. Birth is all about being calm and breathing through the contractions and relaxing your body, because if you start to tense up, it causes more pain. So I'd actually done some hypnobirthing too, which I didn't mention at the start of this video, but I didn't really. With my son, I'd done a lot of hypnobirthing. This time around, I only really relearnt the breathing techniques to do when I was in labor. I didn't really practice like the hypnosis, because a part of my trauma from my previous birth is that I felt like the hypnobirthing failed me. So breathing to relax and meditating made me cry, because I felt like, oh, my body betrayed me. I wasn't able to be calm during the contractions, because it came a certain point with my son that the contractions were too intense that I couldn't relax through them anymore. And I don't know how women do. I can up to a certain point. I can definitely like breathe and relax in the early parts, but like at a certain point, I really can't. So a part of this birth too, I wanted to try an epidural, which I end up doing later on. But yeah, sorry for the side note again. So yeah, the beach was really good, but it was really hard walking onto the sand with having contractions like constantly.
We've left the hospital and we're just taking a little break. Maddie getting wet at the beach, decompressing, soaking up the rays, hoping the baby is attracted to the water and it crawls that way.
We went home. I basically like went upstairs and I tried to rest. I was laying on my side and trying to breathe through the contractions and just resting as much as I could. We had Ryan's mum and dad here, so they were looking after our son. They looked after him for like the whole day. Ryan sort of stayed with me. He brought me food.
So we went back home after the beach, and we've been here a while now. Contractions are, they're keeping on. It's just steadily go. Yeah. Slow and steady wins the race. Maddie's had a bath.
I first felt them around now, yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, like we are sort of at that 24-hour mark, so.
I mean, not technically in the eyes of the hospital, because I'm not in labour, according to them.
Yes, they were like, you can go home because you're not in labour. It's like, what is this immense amount of pain that I have?
What is this tightening and pain I'm getting regularly, but not as regularly enough for you?
Yes, we came home. He's had a bath, she had a little bit of food. She had a little bit of a rest as much as she can.
Yeah.
She's a bloody trooper. Strong woman. Independent, strong woman. Soon to be mother of two.
The more it goes on, the more I'm like, how can I go on?
But it's like, this is the hard part. This is the longest part. Oh, you're doing good, okay? Love you.
So I rested and I got some sleep. The contractions went pretty far apart again, especially while I was asleep, which I was grateful for. And then they started ramping up more in the afternoon. And then I knew that they would ramp up once the evening happened again. I just knew it. I knew I wasn't going to get any proper sleep. So I waited till the evening. Ryan actually got to put our son down for bed again, which was really good. We got to tell him like, oh, Nan and Pops will be here again tomorrow morning to get you. Luckily, they were able to stay another night. I'm so grateful. And to my mum, it really felt like a community effort where all the family came together and helped me and Ryan and have this new child enter the world and, you know, look after our son. And yeah, it felt really good in that way too, like to have all the grandparents helping. I felt very loved. He was in bed and then Ryan and his mum started watching a movie. And I think I came down and I sat in the chair for a little bit and I felt the contractions like ramping up again. I'm trying to breathe through them while I'm talking to like Nan and Pops. Yeah, and then it was go time again. I think around 12 at night again. We went back into the hospital. My mum met us at the hospital and I actually had this beautiful midwife. I think her name was, and she had read my hospital notes and she was like, oh, I see on your hospital notes that you don't want vaginal exam. She's like, don't even worry about it. I'm really old school and I like to tell how far along the woman is based on her body language and how she's tracking. And I was like, oh, that's so great. And so she was like, if you want anything, I'll get you this and that, and we can try these positions. And she was just brilliant. She was so good because she was immediately on my level, agreeing with me that vaginal exams are stupid. It made me feel so relaxed because I had left the hospital that morning feeling dejected, embarrassed, like I was never going to go back to the hospital, and that I'd just labor at home as long as I could and never go back there again. And then I ended up, you know, getting to a certain point where I did need to go back, and yeah, it was great just to have someone on my team and understand where I'm coming from. So I kept laboring, and she was offering me different things to do. She was saying, do you want to try the gas and air? I said last time I hated it. It didn't really work for me. And she was like, well, you know, you could try it again. Sometimes like they have it on too high of a setting or whatever. So we could try like a really low setting. I tried the low setting. I still hated it. The gas and air is not for me. For my mum though, apparently the gas and air was everything. It's really hard to remember what happened at this point. I think I kept laboring and it got way more intense and the contractions were coming closer and closer. I ended up vomiting, and then I wanted the epidural, and she was saying to me, maybe keep trying to like labor without the epidural as long as you can, which I think was good advice, honestly, because I wanted to labor without it as long as I could. But once I hit that 24-hour mark as well, like we're into the next day now, we're into Saturday, I felt really dejected again because at the 24-hour mark I had my emergency C-section, and I thought labor would happen quicker for me this time around because it's like my second time laboring, and even though I ended up in a C-section, all this stuff, I still felt things might have progressed quicker than they did. And I'm having all these contractions and they're far apart, and they're not, but like they're not that far apart. They were never more than 20 minutes apart, so I was never really getting a full break. Most of the time they were at least 2 in 10 minutes or 1 in 10 minutes. Imagine doing that for days on end. It was hard. But looking back, I wouldn't change anything. Except for maybe hope that it was a little faster, if I'm honest. But yeah, she was saying, maybe let's wait it out. And then we tried waiting it out. And we tried different labor positions. And then I was really insistent on having the epidural. And she was like, okay, well, we know on your notes that you have to have a vaginal exam to have an epidural because we need to know how far along you were. And I was okay with that. And she'd also like put things in place to make it easier. They said I could do the gas and air during it, and they'd be really gentle, and they like knew my history and everything. And this, I trusted this midwife, and she was saying all the same things that my obstetrician had told me. And she was like, you know what, I'm gonna crank up the gas and air. It's basically gonna be great. You're not gonna feel a thing. So she cranked that gas and air up, let me tell you. I think it was on max. When I had the vaginal exam and I started like breathing in the gas and air, I went into a completely different planet. I had my eyes closed, everything was black, and things kept repeating. So she said, I'm doing this now and I'm doing that now, and okay, it's over now. That would repeat 3 times in my head, and by the 3rd time it repeated, I knew that that was the real time frame. And then like I opened my eyes and it was over. But like it completely knocked me out. I was in cyberspace. I didn't feel anything at all. It was crazy. So if you guys have pain with vaginal exams, crank up the gas and air, suck down on that. Suck down on that machine, as gross as that sounds, and you won't feel a thing. And she said that I was only 1 to 2 centimeters dilated, and that my cervix was posterior, but it had effaced a little bit. I don't remember all the stuff she said, but that was kind of disappointing. And then she said to me, we shouldn't do the epidural yet because I was in too early of labor, and it wouldn't be as effective as if I waited until I was that 4 centimeters. Because once you're like in that 4 or 5 centimeters, you're in more like active labor and things are progressing quickly. But if you're in that earlier stage of labor and things haven't progressed enough, I think the epidural actually slows everything down a lot more, and then you may not even progress to that 4 or 5 centimeters and beyond. So she suggested we do a morphine injection. I was a little bit scared about doing the morphine injection because last time with my previous birth, after I had that, that's when they checked my son's heart rate, and that's when they realized it had dropped. I panicked initially because I thought because I had the morphine injection that made his heart rate drop. But the midwives and doctors told me like, no, like we literally just injected it to you 1 second ago. Like it doesn't have that quick of an effect. So I was kind of associating those things together and being like, oh, if I have the morphine injection, will her heart rate drop? Like, I don't know. But I talked about it with my mom, and I talked about it with the midwife, and And I talked about it with Ryan, and we all collectively decided to give it a go. And she was saying, just give it a go, have some sleep, like you're exhausted, you've been laboring for so long now. And so I decided to do it. And so I had the morphine injection and I lay down, and I think I had about 2 hours of sleep, and it wasn't great sleep because I was still contracting and all that stuff. I think maybe she gave me that at like 4 a.m. I had like a sleep until like 6 a.m. or at least I was trying to sleep. And then I think I kept laying there until 7 a.m. And then I was like, oh, I should really get up. Thinking to myself, I really need to get off this bed. The whole point of this time around and this labor is that I don't want to be on the bed. So like I tried to start getting up again and doing like lunges and all this stuff to try and help move labor along. And then as luck would have it, my obstetrician actually decided to call in. I think it might be because of my panic attack. And the other obstetrician, like I don't know what was said to and fro, but I think my obstetrician was made aware of the situation and she decided to come in and help me out. I'm eternally grateful to her for doing that because she didn't have to. It was her day off. So nice, so sweet, changed the whole trajectory of my birth. So she came in and she was saying, look, you've had really on and off labor. It hasn't, you know, been going so well. Let's do another vaginal exam and check where your baby is. And at this point as well, I was way more pain with the contractions and I was finding it really hard to relax. Oh, I forgot to mention at the start, I was managing a lot of the pain with the TENS machine, which is also really helpful. I know some women love it, some women hate it. I'm in the camp of loving it. So whenever you get the contraction, you like press the boost button and it gives you, I don't know, this vibration in your back, and it sort of takes away the feeling of the pain, or it distracts your brain enough away from it. Like, I'm not sure how it works exactly, but it's amazing. So there came a point where the TENS machine was not working. I was like starting to be in a lot of agony at this point. And she came in and she was saying, look, we need to see what's going on. And I was saying, I really want an epidural again. Can we do another vaginal exam and see how far along I am? And I think she came in at around like 8 or 9 a.m. I think she said something like, if you're 4 centimeters, I'm gonna break your waters because that's gonna speed things along. But if you're not, then I think she wasn't gonna break my waters and I wouldn't have an epidural. I can't remember the conversation exactly, but it was something like that. We did the whole gas and air thing again, which I was happy with because I didn't feel a thing last time. So we did that again. I had the weird repeating thing and I went into outer space. I could hear her saying like, I'm breaking your waters now. And then when I came back to Earth, she said, yeah, I've broken your waters, you're 4 centimeters, you can have the epidural. And then she went to go get all that stuff ready. Let me tell you, when waters broke, the contractions really ramped up and I vomited again. I think I was vomiting a few times. Also, she told me that the baby is posterior and that's why I had been laboring for so long. She's like, oh, this is why you've been laboring for so long and the contractions have been so on and off, and it really makes sense that you should have an epidural because posterior labors are like more painful, and this is like good, we'll go get you one and all that stuff. Sorry, things are coming back to me slowly, so I know I'm like talking in circles a little bit. And also at this time, my midwife changed shifts, so I was actually like kind of upset that this midwife left, but then I had the most extra beautiful midwife come in, and it seemed like every like new midwife that I got was more and more beautiful, and I was so excited to have like these amazing midwives and women that cared, and it was just so beautiful. Anyway, this beautiful midwife came in. She was trying to like help me with positions on how to turn the baby. She also knew some spinning babies and was telling me to like go on all fours and like rock around a little bit. We'll do some side lying with my like leg hanging off the bed, and she'd work on my hips a little bit, and it was just so lovely of her. But also the contractions had really ramped up at this point. So like I was vomiting and in so much pain, and I was really holding on and tensing up, and I knew I needed that epidural to get through the next bit. Anyway, the epidural eventually came. I think it was like half an hour later or something, and they put it in, and then I think I rested for another 2 hours because at this point it had been such a long time. So while I had the epidural and I was trying to rest, baby's heart rate started dropping, and I was really freaked out by this. This was quite triggering. At the start, I was not worried. I was like, nah, this isn't happening, because so far we'd labored over 2 days. We're into the 3rd day now. We'd labored for so long and her heart rate had been great this whole time. So I really felt like, no, it's gonna be fine. We're gonna do position changes. Her heart rate will come back up. And it did. I was laying on my side with peanut ball, and the midwife was helping try and relax my joints and help baby turn into a better position. But then baby's heart rate would drop, so then we would flip other side, and then we do the same thing again, and then a heart rate would drop again. We flip this way, we flip that way, and she would be like, oh, come on baby, and you know, she'd be rubbing my tummy. And by the end of it, I started getting quite worried, and they started being like, okay, we need to call back the obstetrician. And I was like, oh no, like if we're calling back the obstetrician and things aren't going that well. So I think after like 2 hours of flipping me around, my obstetrician came back in and she was like, okay, so baby's not super happy. That could either mean that you're fully dilated or we might need to do a C-section, because apparently if you're fully dilated, baby can be unhappy. I don't know why. I can't remember, but I do remember her saying that. She did another vaginal exam on me, which I didn't care at this point because I had had the epidural. I think Ryan went to the toilet at this point. Which was a running theme in my last birth, which is why I needed my mum to be there too, because Ryan has IBS, he has pelvic floor issues. They both sort of act up and then they're quite painful for him. So he has to go in the toilet and then he has to be there for so long. So I joke that he's giving birth and I'm giving birth, and like whenever I'm trying to give birth, he's trying to give birth as well. I think my mum was out getting some like food for us to eat too. So I don't even know if she was there. I can't remember. My mind is fuzzy. But anyway, so she did the vaginal examination and she said that I was actually 10 centimeters dilated, and I was in utter shock. I was in shock and disbelief and like elation and happiness and like all the feelings. I'm like, I can't believe I've made it to 10 centimeters. Last time around I was laboring for 24 hours and I only got to 4 centimeters, like a 4 or a 5. And then earlier on, I'd found out that I was like a 1 or a 2 after at least a day or more of laboring. A day and a half of laboring, and then I was a 4 just like 2 hours ago, and now I'm a 10. This is like unbelievable. And she was saying, you're 10 centimeters, but your baby is still posterior. I think she said like, let's have a go with, I'll try and turn her manually now with my hands, and we'll also have a go of pushing. So I think Ryan came back into the room, and then I got to tell him the good news that I was 10 centimeters, and he was like shocked and happy, and he was like, wow, like amazing job, like, you know, you've done so well. And he was so happy. Then she goes in and she tries to turn baby. Unfortunately, baby was way too high up in the cervix, so she couldn't get like a good grip of her. And she kept trying to turn back whenever she was turned. And then she had me have a go at pushing. I had like my legs up in stirrups or whatever, and I had a few goes of pushing. So I tried that just like a few times. I think it was like maybe 3 times during contractions. And then yeah, she said, okay, so you're fully dilated, baby's still posterior though, and heart rate keeps dropping. So because of that, we're gonna take you down to theatre. I'll try turning her with the forceps, and then if that doesn't work, we'll do a C-section. That was like scary for me, hearing the word C-section. But I had hope because I was 10 centimeters dilated.
You can do it.
We start to get everything ready. And at this point as well, I'd had the epidural, but I'd only pressed the button 2 times, and I didn't press it again before I was wheeled down to theatre. And I hadn't pressed it in a while before I was wheeled down to theatre, I think at least an hour or something. And they actually disconnected the epidural to go down to theatre. So we went down to theatre, but then they had to call everyone back in. So they had to call a second pair of hands, so like the other obstetrician that I didn't get along with. And then they had to call in like the pediatrician, and then like extra midwives, and they had to call in the anaesthetist who did the epidural. They had to call in everyone. I was like waiting in like the loading bay or whatever they call it, waiting for everyone to get here. And actually it was the anaesthetist who did the epidural that took the longest, and I actually needed him the most because the epidural completely wore off while I was waiting, and I was in agony, like absolute agony. And I'm like on this bed with the little monitor box of her heart rate. I had that box in between my legs, so I couldn't even move into a better position, and I was just retching in agony, and it was just awful. Even though he took so long, I think it ended up being a blessing, because by the time he did get there and I was wheeled into theatre, and let me tell you, it was so dramatic. They were trying to shift me onto the bed, and any little movement was excruciating, and I was like, can you please do the epidural? Actually, side note again, even before that happened and I was put onto the surgery table, I was actually really unsure about having the forceps, because I know that my obstetrician is very skilled with the forceps, and lots of people recommend her and know that you're in great hands with her. But my pelvic floor person had told me, do not get forceps. Do a C-section over forceps, because it just completely ruins your pelvic floor. So I had like conflicting messages in my head and I was really scared. And I talked to the midwife that was so beautiful and lovely next to me, and she said, look, in all honesty, I would probably do the C-section unless I had your obstetrician. She is amazing. So I was like, thank you. I'll go for the forceps. I really trusted this midwife, and she like held my hand and squeezed it. She was just so beautiful. Also, like Ryan was squeezing my hand too, but whenever he wasn't there, like she squeezed my hand. It was so sweet. So yeah, they put me on the surgery table. Luckily, they dosed me up with the epidural again, so I wasn't feeling anything. I think it was maybe a little embarrassed that he'd taken so long to get there. Secretly too, all the midwives were like kind of pissed off. So I'm on the table. My obstetrician gets out the forceps. She puts the forceps in, which is very scary. And then I could feel her like turning my baby around. I could feel her little body turning and rotating in my stomach. I'm like, whoa, this is such a weird feeling. And then she's like, okay, I've got her in a good position. Let's try and push. So she had me hold the back of my legs. I'm on my back again in like stirrups, and I'm pushing down, I'm bearing down with all my might. And let me tell you, I wanted to push that baby out so badly. And because of the threat of her heart rate dropping and potential C-section again, I was like, I'm gonna push with all my might. I'm gonna squeeze this baby out of me if it's the last thing I do. So I gave it everything. And she was like, wow, you're such a natural pusher. This is great. Oh, and even before this was why it was so good that the obstetrician took so long. Because he had taken so long, she had actually come down further into my pelvis. Before she was up really high, but I think that extra time that it took for him to come, and even though it was in excruciating pain, she actually came down the birth canal further, which meant that it made it easier for my obstetrician to get her with the forceps, which was such a blessing. At this point, the contractions were so close together. I don't think I had any break when I was on that table waiting for the obstetrician to come. No, not the obstetrician, the anaesthetist to come. So I think she really wanted to come out too, which was good. It's interesting too, I thought I would only do 1 push per contraction, but I think I did 3 pushes per contraction. She's like, okay, push during this next contraction. I like pushed, and then she's like, okay, we can do another one. And I like pushed again. She's like, okay, another one, pushed again. So I think I did 3 or 4 of those contractions and pushing. And then she was like, oh my God, your baby's head's coming out. Like, do you want to feel it? And I was like, oh my God, my baby's head's coming out. It's actually coming out and I can feel it. I'm like, yes. I like put my hand down there. I felt, I'm like, I was like so shocked because it felt like kind of like jelly or something. Also, I had like the big lights in front of me, the surgery lights, and I refused to look at those because you could see everything that was going on down below and I really didn't want to see. Felt her head. I was in shock. I was tearing up and it was just such an emotional thing. I think Brian said to me, oh my God, you're actually doing it. And my obstetrician was saying it was pushing so well and she's coming out. I couldn't believe it. And she's like, push again. And I like pushed, and then her head came out, and then push again, and like body came out. She's like, grab her, like put your hands there and you can pick her up and put her on your own chest. And I'm like, what, really? And so I like actually got to like lift her onto my own chest, and that was just incredibly magical. I had like a few tears coming out, and it was just such a beautiful experience getting to hold her. And then she was so alert. She like let out a few little cries, and then she like was just looking at me in my arms, and I'm like, I can't believe you've come out and you're mine, and we've achieved a VBAC. And like my partner was so happy, and it was just so magical. And I could only attribute, well, I guess like all the work that I did too, but also mostly my obstetrician, because if she didn't come in and if she wasn't such like a wizard with the forceps and basically saved me from that other obstetrician, I think it would have ended in a C-section. And later on she basically told me that too. And let me tell you, she actually gave up one of her daughter's gingerbread making days that she had planned for her daughter just to come in to help me, and I felt so bad when I found that out. Forever grateful. I got to achieve my dream birth because she did that, and I was just so thankful. So yeah, that was my birth story. Recovery wise though, because I had labored for so long and posterior birth with a forceps delivery, I've actually been in quite a lot of pain. It's still not as bad as a C-section, because when you have all your abs basically ripped apart, you can't like stand up straight or anything like that. I still take this birth over my last birth, but I also hoped that a vaginal birth would have been easier recovery wise, and I think it would have if I didn't have a posterior baby and a forceps delivery. But overall I feel so positive and elated that I got to have this birth. The midwives when I was in the hospital kept checking in on me and seeing how I was doing mentally and all that, and they're like, how are you going mentally and all this stuff? And I'm like, oh, I feel so happy. And they're like, wow, that's amazing because you had a forceps birth. And like a few of them said that to me, and I'm like, oh. So because I had a forceps birth, I guess like a lot of women feel bad when they have a forceps birth, but for me, because I had had a C-section previously and all I wanted was a vaginal birth, and to achieve that with even with forceps made me so happy. For me, like it was such a positive. And yeah, that's my story, and I'm just so glad that she is in my life now, and we get to have 2 beautiful little children, when a couple years ago I thought maybe I wouldn't even be able to have children, which is a whole nother story in itself, which I've documented here on the channel. So if you want to go look at those videos, I'll link them down below as well. Thank you so much for watching this video. I love you guys, and I hope you have a beautiful day. And if you're out there trying to achieve a VBAC, I wish you all the best of luck, and I'll see you again next time. Bye. That looks pretty blank.
It's pretty blank to me. Yeah, I can see that way more now. It's still very faint,
Oh my
but it's like, it's there. It's way more visible.
I'm a baby.
There's a girl! You don't have a little sister. Hey!
He's trying to do the reveal.